Hey y'all, hello. I know this was an impromptu live. You guys are welcome. Please hit that like button as you guys come in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know it's been a while since I've done any of these lives where, especially without giving you guys a heads up, or even any lives in general, I'm just going to give you guys some time to come in. I'm going to hit that countdown button just to give you guys some time to get in as well. Hey y'all, welcome. Please hit that like button, guys. Please hit that like button. So I know I didn't give you guys a heads up, and I just wanted to come up and talk about Shamea and Porsha Williams really quickly. So I have a very, very different opinion to a lot of people. And I suspect that some of you are going to want to drag me when I finally say what my views are about the whole Porsha Williams and Shamea Martin. I personally feel like it's either of two things, and I'll say what my first thing is, and then I'll talk about the second one a little bit later. I do think that, yes, there have been moments where Porsha has been a bad friend to Shamea and has not shown up in the way in which that Shamea expected or would have wanted or would expect of a friend. However, I do also think that there are things that Shamea has done as well that come across as being manipulative, in my opinion, because I watched the show, the last episode, right? And I was so surprised that everyone, the focus of everyone is Shamea is a lapdog, Shamea this, Shamea that. Instead of wait a minute. The big conversation we need to be talking about is why would Shamea feel comfortable enough to talk about her so-called best friend and the things that her best friend has not been doing to a complete stranger? Let's be clear. You and Angela are not even that cool. So it's not something where there is some sort of expectation that you guys are, buddy buddies and you guys are like really good girlfriends and kikiing and stuff like that. The truth is, you guys are not really cool like that. You guys are not really, really good friends like that. That's just what the situation is, right? So for me, it just feels like such an extreme situation for Shamia to even be caught up in speaking to Angela. Why? What was the reason? What was the reason? I can't imagine speaking to somebody that I know doesn't want the best interest of our friendship, doesn't know all of the parties involved. I just met this person for goodness sake. And now I will be talking to them about a best friend that I've known and I've been best friends with for years. Let's call a spade a spade. I know that people are hating Porsha this season, and absolutely right. It was warranted because of the way Porsha has been moving this season. A lot of us expected Porsha to come on the show and be buddy buddies, laughing, that good vibe and energy we know and love. That's what we were expecting when it came to Porsha Williams. However, this season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, we haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten that energetic, full on active, fun person that we fell in love with, right? So I understand people not liking Porsha this season. Absolutely agree with it. I get it. However, take pull it back a little bit, come out of it a little bit, come out, remove your emotions for a second, and think about this. Just watch the show and think about it for a second. Yes, Porsha has been dead wrong so many times on this season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, but also in some of the things that she did with her friendship with Shamea. Like, for example, not showing up to her wedding. What friend doesn't show up to their friend's wedding? That is absolutely horrible. You should move mountains to get to your friend's wedding. But despite that, they moved on from it. And let's be clear, if you talk to your friends, you will hurt your friends. You will do something that hurts your friends. That is just a truth. That is a fact, right? No matter how good a friend that you are, there will come a time where you will do something, you will say something, you won't mean it or whatever, or you may mean it, but it may be taken the wrong way, right? You could do things that could hurt your friend's feelings. You could do things that show that you don't value the friendship. However, if you talk to your friend about it, or your friend talks to you about it and calls your attention to it and says, I don't like what you did, you apologize, you take responsibility, and hopefully, if you guys fix it, then you move on. But here's the thing, Shamea and Porsha had that conversation at the time, and there was meant to have been a resolve at the time, and then moved on to be doing my bestie, my bestie, my bestie. And then all of a sudden, you want to now bring things back up again about the wedding. That means you never really let go. That means you never really vocalized how you felt about it. The problem, I feel, and Shamea has told us herself that she is a people pleaser. The problem with people pleasers on people that are very non confrontational and avoid conflicts, they tend to harbor certain things about how they feel like you treat them, how their relationship. They don't say it to you, they say it to everyone else but you. So I'm not surprised that Shamea was out here talking to Angela. Because that's the thing. That's what people pleasers would do. That's what people that are avoidant when avoidant in dealing with confrontation, that's what they do. They will talk to everybody but the person they have the issue with. Honey, focus on the person you have the issue with. And so for me, it feels very manipulative. It feels like gaslighting, that all of a sudden, all everyone cares about is, oh, Porsha is a bad friend to Shamea. But nobody is thinking, Shamea, why is it okay for you to be speaking to Angela about your relationship with your so called bestie? Why? Why? It's never, ever okay for you to be speaking about your so called bestie. Never, never okay. Now, let's be clear. I'm not saying that you can't vent to somebody. Let's say, for example, there are certain, maybe you have another friend and you told her, okay, this is what happened. This is how I feel, blah, blah, blah. And you're trying to get some pointers or whatever and just balance out how you're thinking to somebody else. I get it. But not a rando you just met who is filming a show, who you and her don't even kiki like that, and now you're confessing everything to her. That is a problem. That is a huge, huge problem, and it's a huge red flag. And it's very much given you're trying to gaslight all of us. Because how, even in the confessional, she's like, I would never let our friendship be a topic of conversation. Honey, but you did. Like, are you delusional? And bear in mind, like, I like Shamea, I like Porsha, right? But it's given delusional, right? Because how can you open your mouth to say, I would never make our friendship the topic of conversation when you did? You spoke to Angela. If you didn't speak to Angela, the conversation would not have happened. Because for all Porsha's antics this season, not once have I seen Porsha say something, excuse me, to any of the girlies about Shamea. The only thing I think Porsha does is when something is brought to her, she'll say, oh, that's not how Shamea said it, or Shamea did. Not saying that's okay, but I noticed she did it in front of Shamea, and Shamea did not check that. If it was something where Shamea had an issue with that, Shamea should have checked it. But that's the thing. It's like if you go around people pleasing and avoiding confrontational situations, that is what is going to end up happening. Please hit that like button as you guys come in. Hit that like button. But this got me heated because I've just been seeing like everybody is like a huge majority of people have been coming for Porsha specifically about this whole thing. And I was like, I watched this episode. Angela spoke to Porsha about it, about a conversation that Shamea had. And I've not heard for once Shamea deny having a conversation. She's just saying, oh, that's not really how it was said. But let's be clear. If, in fact, these girlies came to her and said, oh, your best friend didn't attend your wedding, what kind of best friend is that? You could have shut it down and said, well, my best friend is my best friend. We talked about the issues. We're good. That's what you do. If you were really trying to protect your friendship, you would be protecting both of yourselves. You would be like, ain't nobody getting in between this. We present a united front. But to me, that was not done. That absolutely was not done. And like I said, I'm not trivializing that Porsha comes across very self-centered, and I can understand how that may not be conducive to certain friendships. Absolutely agree with that. However, I think that that's where a conversation comes in. I know certain people, we're cool, we're close, we're friends. Everyone has their different personalities. Some people were raised in a way where they were the center of attention in their family, in everything. They used to be in the center of attention. It's not it's not them trying to be that. That's just how they are, right? And so usually with people like that, they think the world revolves around them. So sometimes you have to say like, girl, okay, I know this is who you are, but this is what I need from our friendship. And if they can't provide you what you need from that friendship, then head out. Run. Don't let the door hit you on your way out. But I think what annoys me the most is when you stay in a friendship, you're not saying anything, and then you're going to talk to other people about this person. It doesn't look good. It doesn't speak well. And yeah, I'm irritated by it actually. Because if I'm being completely honest, I just feel like people are letting Shamea fly under the radar with the whole thing, when I think they both should be held accountable. Shamea, you should not be having a conversation with anybody on that show if you don't want it to be a topic of conversation. So I feel like you knew exactly what you were doing when you brought that to Angela. Or maybe you had such a good time, you let your guard down and was talking ish about your so-called best friend. But nobody likes anybody who talks about their best friend because they know they cannot trust you. And I think the saddest part is watching them get played by the newbies. Watching Angela, and then you see the way Kelly brought the gist over to Shamea, and the way she tipped it, like, oh, like it almost gave the impression that Porsha was talking about her, and then tried to clean it up later on. It's like, we have to be careful. Now, I know we didn't like when Porsha's mama said, be careful of the dog that brings the bone. But I agree in this particular instance where be careful about the dog who brings the bone, right? Because in this situation, Angela brought the bone because Angela is not happy with the way that Shamea did not check Porsha. And she's trying to get in there and break it up. Same thing as the other person as well, Kelly. Kelly wants to be BFFs with Shamea, sorry. Yeah. So I feel like Kelly wants to be BFFs with Shamea, and then that's what it's about. In my opinion, that's what it's given. So that's my first theory. Remember, I told you guys at the start I have two theories. That's my first theory. Now, what I actually wanted to read something. Um, I wanted to read a comment that I saw on, where did I see the comments? Guys, I'm so sorry. I don't even know. I just saw it online and I screenshot the comment. But the person was basically saying, I actually love you, Shamea, but when it comes to this situation and this one alone, I have to side with Porsha. It looks crazy that Angela had any amp to run back to her to begin with, especially since they're not cool. I would have been upset as well. Do I think you are good friends with Porsha? Yes. Do I think Porsha could be more of a ride or die for you? Absolutely. But I'm never going to tell outsiders anything and then get upset that my friend is now checking me on information I said in front of said outsiders. That is exactly how I feel. This person literally wrote my commentary because I just feel like, girl, you brought it here. You brought it on this platform in front of these girlies, and then you can't then be upset when everything is now being clocked. And if you see, and you know, the interesting part of it is I picked up on the fact that even though everything happened with Angela, you could tell Porsha was upset, but Porsha was thinking, now is not the time for me to address this. You would even see that she was like, Shamea, get in the photo, and then they took a picture together. Because from Portia's perspective, at least outside looking in from what they're giving us, it was looking like Porsha didn't think it was the time or place to address this issue. However, once the whole thing, they're doing yoga, Shamea does not want to participate in yoga. Now you're making noise, you're causing a scene. Kelly goes over there, and then now that sparks up a whole conversation and a whole thing that did not need to happen. Let's be clear. If Shamea just lay on the mats, at least from what Porsha has been giving us in the confessionals. Now, I know it was filmed afterwards, but from that and seeing how she was at least interacting with Shamea or whatever, I do not think that she would have addressed it at her event. Maybe off camera, she would have addressed it. It happened the day before. Let's be clear. How many times, like, is that really something that you'd be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna address the night before my event? What Angela said to me. Of course not for everybody, right? So I personally do not, I feel like Shamea could have just left it and not brought it up, because I think her behavior at the yoga thing caused the conversation to come up. And then that gave Kelly an intro to be able to include it. That gave Angela an intro to be able to include it. Now, that said, the other thing that I think about is when they do all of these group activities, they always have general questions. So it may have come out naturally in that. But I think there was so much dramatics from Shamea laying on the thing and then poking back and then refusing to lay on the thing and just sitting there. It's like, what do you expect? She's allowed to be upset. Interestingly enough, there isn't anything that was taken back to Shamea that Porsha said. Porsha just cried. She's allowed to be upset. If I heard that a friend of mine or somebody I call a best friend, right? Please hit that like button as you guys come in. Somebody I call my best friend is out here talking smack about me and then has the audacity to talk smack about me to a new person that they have just met. I would be upset too. And I know people are saying like, oh yeah, Portia's fake crying, I didn't see no tears. Maybe she is, maybe she's not. But I think because this season, Portia's the villain this season, I think that people are not being objective and looking at the situation for what it is. Shamea said in her confessionals, that's just the type of friend she is, right? Nobody asked her to do the things that she does. Nobody asked her to be on Drew's neck. Nobody asked her to be on Angela's neck. She did that based on who she says that she is, right? So that doesn't mean other people have to operate in that way. However, if you need your best friend to operate in that way, then you speak to your best friend and not us. That's just what I'm saying. Now, the second theory that I have is what Shirley has just said. And I'm going to put it on the screen so you guys can see it. Yes, Shamea is being manipulative. However, if she forgave Porsha, why now? Exactly. This makes me think it's a storyline is not good. That's the second thing that I said I wanted to talk about. Because for me, on the one hand, I was like, okay, let's not absorb, if in case this is true, let's not absorb Shamea from some responsibility. The same way we've been giving Porsha and putting our foot on Porsha's neck this season, let's also apply some pressure with specifically and call out. So when I say pressure, let's be clear, I'm not sending you to nobody. I'm just saying, let's be clear right here as we're talking about it, that it comes across on our screens that Shamea is being manipulative. Because girl, what are we doing? What are we doing? Please hit that like button as you guys come in. We're talking about Shamea. I talked about how I feel like Shamea is manipulative and is also equally a bad friend to Porsha Williams. Now, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I stand on it. You guys can come and argue with me in the comments if you guys want. Or argue in the, if you guys want me to put the link, I can put the link to, you guys can pull up and come and, argue with me if you guys want. But the other part I want to talk about is the fact that it may be a storyline. Because I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, so we've had the storyline for how many episodes now? A bunch of episodes now, where it comes across as we keep on pushing the fact that Drew and Porsha and Dennis and all that kind of drama, right? What else is Porsha going to really talk about or show if she's unable to film at her home with everything going on with Simon? So these are the questions. So my thing then is like, okay, is this given scripted? Is this giving like we came together and we're like, okay, people always be calling us lapdogs and and let's bring it all together? Could it be this? Like, these are the questions that I genuinely have, right? And then if I think about, I was listening to Kempire, I think it was yesterday, right? And he was saying how he feels like, oh, this is not verbatim, by the way, just FYI. But he was basically talking about it, right? And this is something that I had thought about before as well, right? Where I was like, oh, imagine at the reunion, they're probably both going to shed some tears and then it's going to be done and then they'll cry it out and they move on, right? Because I've noticed that it feels like this season they're trying to like throw us off every now and then. I say that because Shamea has been like standing on, yeah, my friend, my friend, my friend. Then all of a sudden, at the last watch What Happens Live with Andy, she was giving so much smoke on the whole Porsha thing. And I'm like, oh, so it's giving you want to come with the energy? Okay. So are we going to be having a tussle at the reunion? Is that what this is looking like? Right? So it's very much giving like, are we doing the dramatics for the show? I really hope it's not that serious and I hope that they can get it together. Now, first of all, let's be clear. I do think that there are things that Porsha can do to be a better friend to Shamea. I think Shamea wants a ride or die, my girl, my girl, my girl. And Porsha ain't that type of chick. And I feel like if Shamea wants and needs that from a relationship, then she needs to communicate that. Because some people's understanding of what friendship is are totally different. Right? Some people, for them, they're just like, yeah, if I need you, I call you every now and then. That's really what the friendship is. Ain't nothing. I ain't got to do too much. I can still be around people that you don't like. No problem there, right? So it sounds like they don't have boundaries in their friendship. They don't have things that they've communicated as, okay, this is a no-go area. We don't roll this way. So it just feels like everything is fair game. Yeah, it never, ever, ever is a good look. So if it's a storyline, you guys better get it together and clean this up and resolve this, and hopefully everybody can move on accordingly on a nice footing where, because I do think, like, I know people say like, oh yeah, da, 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 but I think they have good banter. I think they get along generally okay. So it would be nice for them to actually be able to maintain a relationship, even if they're not going to be tight, right? They can still, or they should still be able to maintain some sort of like cordial civil relationship where nobody's called a lapdog or nobody is being called out for being a bad friend. Like, it doesn't have to be that deep. But I think the viewers are not making it easy, because everywhere I look, I constantly see, oh, Porsha is a bad friend. Porsha is jealous of you. Like, you don't know these people. You don't know what's deep in their hearts or what isn't. Now, will I be honest and tell you that there are some moments where it does look a little bit like, girl, is you jealous? Or what? Right? Sometimes it be looking like that. But I think people are taking it too far by constantly like tagging Shamea and calling her lapdog or all that kind of stuff, because I feel like all those things build up into this beef. And to be honest, a part of me thinks maybe the reason that Shamea went so hard at the Watch What Happens live that happened recently was because Shamea had been reading the comments. Maybe Shamea had been reading the comments where people are being calling her and saying like, you're doing lapdog-ish and stuff like that. And then she felt like she has to defend herself. And then, act like she ain't a lapdog. And then that's why she's now overcompensating in the way that she is now attacking this issue and coming across when it comes to the issue between her and Porsha. So I think they're both wrong. I think they both have an accountability problem. We've seen the way Shamea refuses to take accountability or even have a basic level of empathy for Angela, considering Angela basically has stated how she feels and why she feels the way she feels. So for me, it's just like, girl, just take accountability for your part and just say, I'm sorry I offended you by laughing. Simple, the end. But you're still doubling down and saying like, yeah, you don't really get why she's or whatever. Girl, she's upset. She's upset. That's how she feels, because that's how she has interpreted what you did. And I won't be surprised if Angela decided to give a little tit for tat by exposing Shamea's conversation with her to Porsha as payback for laughing about my husband. Now, the good thing about Angela, I will say, is Angela knows how to put a little bit of jab here, a little bit of this here, stir the pot without necessarily being so obvious about it, right? She knows how to stir the pot without being obvious about it. And I think that's what it is. You can stir it up a little bit without being obvious about it. And I think that's why a lot of people keep saying like, oh, Angela gives them OG vibes, with the way she is able to like stir the pot, with the way she's able to like just crack on and like move the storylines, because like the storylines weren't really moving this season. We didn't really know what was going on. And then all of a sudden, here comes Angela doing the work of Bravo. She was really getting in there and, forcing people to talk about their ish. And I am not mad at it at all. Personally, I am not. I know like there's some people that are like, oh yeah, don't get me wrong, Angela ain't gonna be my friend, because I cannot trust that you're not going to be shady to me when the time comes, or like take something that I've told you and then run with it. But I would say Angela is good for the show because at least somebody is having the conversations, somebody is pushing the storylines forward, somebody is forcing people to take accountability, somebody is forcing people to address the issues in their friendships, which are just not being addressed. So, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Um, I may do another live if I get a chance later this evening. I'm not sure, but just turn on your notifications so you know if I do decide to go live tonight. Hit that like button. Um, and yeah, thank you so much for your time. This was completely impromptu, and so I really appreciate you guys pulling up and showing up for us to just have a little quick chat. Quick. Oh, I can't even say my words anymore, honey. Get it together. Okay. Yeah, like just have a quick chat about the whole Shamea and Porsha business. But yeah, guys, the reason I'm trying to run off is because I have a walking group. So I walk sometimes with a couple of my girlies, right? So it's like 15 minutes before I have to go on the walk, and I'm just like, okay, I need to get, well, actually 30 minutes before I have to go on the walk. So I need to like get it together, get my cute outfit on for walking. I'm feeling a bit of a headache, so I need to take an Advil or something, and get this headache under control, and then head out for a walk. So, but yeah, if I have some time later this evening, then maybe I might come up on live and talk to you guys. I do want to do a bit more lives with you guys. Coming up soon. Yeah, and yeah, please guys hit that like button as you guys come in. I've been doing a lot of Real Housewives of Atlanta content, so if you guys have missed anything, please head over to the videos section of my YouTube page and watch those videos. Like, I'm at this point, I'm begging y'all, please watch those videos, because I know we've kind of moved away from, like, focusing on Love and Marriage Huntsville as much. And so I want to move into other spaces like Real Housewives of Atlanta, Bravo stuff. So yeah, please subscribe, please like, please share, and please engage. That genuinely helps the channel. So thank you so much for your time. I love you guys a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Take care. Bye.